Welcome to an American Homestead, podcasting live from deep within the Ozark Mountains at an elevation of 2,200 feet. It's 9 p.m. Central and 10 Eastern. It's good to be back. Just want to go ahead and give a plug out to Deep South Homestead. We always tune into their channel before we begin ours here at an American Homestead's YouTube page. And just go ahead and give you some network plugs of the homesteadnetwork.com. You can go to their show times on that website, thehomesteadnetwork.com, and see all of the Homestead channels that participate in this network and tune into their YouTube channels and subscribe. So urge all of our listeners to go ahead and do that. Wow. So it's been a weird week. We've had so much rain in the last few, the last few weeks of July and August. It's just completely not normal what we're getting here. And I don't know if that's the same where you are, but this has been totally not a right. This August is just weird. The sorghum, however, has totally jump-started and is way tall, and is growing like crazy. We have some sugarcane growing in the garden that is doing fantastic, and I'm sure it's because of all of the rain in August and July that's just been not normal. And so that's really cool that's been the case. And, I think we're going to get sorghum syrup this year. So I'm really excited about that. But again, this has just been completely not normal. Tonight, it's going to get down to about 55, 56 degrees in August, for crying out loud. That is really cold. It's the middle of August, and we're in the homestead. We're in the home, on the homestead here, and we have no utilities other than this DSL line that's allowing us to talk to you, powered by solar, and we have all of our windows shut in the homestead in the middle of August. That's just crazy to me.
That's crazy.
So, with me as always is Jamie, my wife, here on the homestead, and we're podcasting for you tonight. And
it feels like fall.
It does. It totally feels, especially with the rain. It's been cold rain the last few days. We had a good amount of rain today, maybe an inch. I don't know. Tim's the one who keeps track of the rain gauge. But we've had a good amount of rain. Again, this is all completely, not right for August here in the south of Arkansas, or just in Arkansas, the Ozarks. So technically we're in the south, but it's just not normal. For the last few years we've been here, this is not normal. So that brings us to just a bunch of stuff. Hey, what do we do this week? Let's go ahead and get this started. And, we got the zero turn. We talked about the zero turn last week. We've got the zero turn mower. And I haven't been able to use it really because of the rain. We had so much rain. One day last week, I started it up and used it anyway, even though the grass wasn't totally dry. Did a great, fantastic job. Now we have a great way to keep all of our grass mowed down on the homestead. And we use the brush hog on the tractor quite a bit. So that's our main way of, brush hogging our fields and keeping them looking good.
What my favorite thing about the zero turn is?
What?
You'll never guess.
What? Tell me.
I haven't told Zach this, but he was cutting the grass, honestly, with the weed whacker because we didn't have any lawnmower whatsoever. And
our lawnmower, we have a self-propelled Briggs & Stratton Toro, and it was broken for a while.
And every time he was done, he would bring the entire field back in his socks. And so I was constantly picking weeds and everything, stickers and everything out of his socks. Well, now that he sits down on the zero turn, I don't have to mess with the socks. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. See, when I'm out there, when you're weed whacking, you get sprayed with grass and whatever else. That's one of the reasons I don't like doing it in the summer, because I'm always hitting poison ivy vines and getting all that poison ivy on me. So, anyway, we got the zero turn going. It's working great. I'm really looking forward to some time where I can use it. I got a couple fields I want to mow down with it, and to because really when you mow that grass, it adds that nitrogen back into the ground. It's just a really good way to bring back the health of a patch of grass, is to keep it cut and trimmed. And so I got some places I need to do that, and I haven't been doing it lately. And so got that going, entered some stuff into the fair this week, and
Yeah, we entered quite a few things.
And we'll be picking up our stuff tomorrow at the fair. So if you saw our latest episode on An American Homestead, it's episode 9. You saw us putting our stuff in the fair, and we have some of the results already, but we're going to pick up our stuff tomorrow from the fair. Tonight was the last day of the fair. It closed tonight. And we'll pick up all of our stuff and get the ribbons home and do just a after-action review on how we did at the fair and the ribbons we won for the different things we did. And so I think it's going to be really exciting to show you guys.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie got her, I'll just give you a preview. Jamie got her highest award ever for any of her canned goods. And don't tell anybody what it was. But she got her highest award ever that she's gotten so far in the 3 years we've been doing it. So that was really neat. Really, really neat.
Well, you did really well, too.
Yeah, I did. I got the highest award I've ever gotten so far, for the categories I've entered in. So, we'll talk about all that coming up in the next episode, episode 10 of An American Homestead, season 3. And what else we do? Oh, we're working on the sawmill this week. We have the sawmill going, and I'm going to go down there probably Monday, cut some more logs. I need to trim up some 6x6 timbers, cedar timbers, and make some 6x6s to go in the ground that's going to be used for the trusses of the pavilion building we're putting up over the top of the sawmill. And so we got some trusses, and we got it marked out, laid out, and squared of where we're going to be putting in the trusses. And so we're going to start doing that. I got to drill the holes. We have an auger, and we're going to drill those holes, get those trusses in place, and get the 6x6s milled out this week so that we can go ahead and finish that. Now, I'm getting roofing materials probably not this week, but next week. There's an old recycle place over in a town nearby that takes apart old chicken barns, and they take all of the parts, the good lumber, the good sheet metal, and everything they can salvage from these chicken barns that they dismantle, and they sell it to the public at a really super cheap discount. And we're going to pick up some of that material soon to help finish the roof of the sawmill building. I got to get it out of the weather. And plus, once that's all done, we're going to start construction on the solar kiln so that we can kiln dry a bunch of the lumber that we're milling on that mill. And most of the lumber we're using, if you haven't been around before, is going to be used for furniture making. We're going to sell it to furniture manufacturers in the area. So all of that's going on. The sawmill building is going to be going up soon. We're working on that, and I'll give you an update in the next episode of An American Homestead. And the garden. The garden's about done.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's just we've got.
Usually we're canning into September.
Yeah.
I think we did it into the middle of September last year.
But the weather has just been weird, and we did our last batch of salsa this week. We did about another 2 dozen, or how many jars we do?
Let's see. I did about not quite 2 dozen.
So another batch of salsa that we got put up for the pantry. So we got a lot of salsa combined with all the other batches we've done.
If you don't know, the salsa is Zach's favorite thing.
Yeah, we got it. It's like my main priority.
So I always make a lot.
Make lots of salsa.
I'm really good at it now.
Yeah. We want lots of salsa. And so I put up, I'm glad when we can fill the pantry with salsa. So, the garden is about done. The tomatoes, there's just not a lot out there. I brought in our smallest batch the other day, and we used that to make salsa. And so I think it's done. And I'm getting ready to pull out the cattle panels and the stakes and everything. And I think we're going to go ahead and just mow it under and get it ready for next year, that part of the garden. There's still a part of the garden. In that main part, I have to harvest all of the passion fruit, all of the maypops that came up. I'm going to harvest a bunch of those. I think we're going to make something out of that. And we still have Jerusalem artichokes to harvest. That'll be harvested in the wintertime. And then we have the achachas that are out there. We have the sugar cane that's out there. I'm going to harvest that. But other than that, we're basically about done. I need to go out there and start mowing things down and getting everything ready for next season. But it just ended early this year. And I think it's just because of the weather. So anyway.
Are we answering questions or saving them till later?
Folks, what we'll do is we'll get through that. We have some news items we want to get through, and then we will get, it's only 10 minutes into the show. We'll get through some of these news items and updates, And then after we're done, we'll turn it over to you guys in the chat room. And if you can ask your questions, just type everything in all caps so that we know that's a question you want us to answer. And then we'll get to it at the end of the show. And I saw Deep South Homestead. Yeah, we have lots of passion fruit here. And I know you guys have it too. It grows great here in the South, and we love it. And we're gonna try to make something out of it. I haven't figured out what. I've picked out a few recipes, and I'm gonna share those to Jamie and let her see what she can help me with.
I think you can make jam. I haven't looked into it yet.
There's a lot of it out there.
I think you can make jam.
I was looking at, there was like a mixed drink, like a cocktail. I was kind of interested in making with it. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, also me and Joshua, my 9-year-old, he's our oldest, we did our first Creation Crate video unboxing. For you homeschoolers out there, all you guys who homeschool, you have kids in homeschool, and we did our first unboxing of the Creation Crate, and it was fantastic. It was really cool. He had a lot of fun doing it and did really good on the programming of the C#. You know, Deep South Homestead earlier was talking about languages and people learning languages. I think it's just as important to learn coding languages, programming languages, because it opens your mind and develops your mind as a young person to learn, actual speaking languages, foreign languages that people speak. It's the same thing. And so he's learning C# right now. He had a good time doing it, and he typed all that out, and he's just beginning to learn the C# programming code. And so we will do a video that'll be coming out this week of the unboxing of the Creation Crate. And for you homeschoolers out there, you guys can order this, do the same thing, and follow along with our videos. And I think you guys are going to have a great time doing these. If your kid's definitely 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, he's going to love this. Maybe even up into your teens, even adults. I would love doing this. It's really fun. As a techie, I love doing this kind of thing. So even adults, I think, would get a lot out of it.
I think when you homeschool, you need to have, for my son, he's he's not so into math. Like, math is hard, but you got to do it. I mean, there are homeschool things that you just got to do in order to move on to the other more interesting things. But the Creation Crate gives him an opportunity to do school, but have a great time doing it too. It's almost like a reward.
Right. And he's almost learning math doing it. He's seeing why math is important, because it takes mathematics to make this code function. And so he's learning a little bit of that, and I think that's important. So yeah. So we're gonna have video coming out on that probably in the next couple days. It'll be up and running. I gotta take a little bit more footage of the product itself before I get that video up, but we're just about ready to put that up this week, and I think y'all will enjoy it. So, upcoming winter weather, we talked about weather, and man, the weather is just weird, but we saw this week that the old Farmer's Almanac, not to be confused with the Farmer's Almanac, because they are two different entities, they are predicting Snowmegeddon for much of the U.S. this year. And so I just want to go ahead and read this to you, because I thought it was really interesting. And, people say this every year. They say when summer's coming and summer's approaching, there's people who predict that it's going to be the worst summer ever. There's going to be major droughts. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. They did the same thing every year with hurricane season. And the last few number of years, hurricane season has been just nothing. But, they had... A number of years ago, you had so many hurricanes that were so devastating that it became popular to predict doom and gloom for the hurricane season, and it's just a popular thing to predict doom and gloom for the weather. It gets ratings. Doom and gloom sells. Doom and gloom gets people to click on your article, and I just think maybe the Farmer's Almanac and the Old Farmer's Almanac have succumbed to this desire to get so many. It's just clickbait. And so let me just read the article. According to the 2017 Farmer's Almanac, the highly acclaimed historic weather prediction resource, the U.S., specifically the Northern Plains, Great Lakes, Midwest, Ohio Valley, Middle Atlantic, Northeast, and New England may be facing a teeth-chattering winter. However, periodic shocks of bitter cold temperatures are predicted to reach as far south as Florida and the Gulf Coast. As for the West Coast, the Almanac says the usual milder than normal temperatures will prevail. The annual edition, which was released Monday, notes that cold conditions aren't expected to kick in until mid-November in the Northeast, Great Lakes, and Midwest. The frigidly cold conditions are slated to arrive until after winter officially sets in December 21st, and residents should expect plenty of snow to arrive with the bone-chilling climates. So it means it's like the bone-chilling climates and the teeth-chattering. I mean, it's doom and gloom. That's all this is. It's clickbait.
It's winter.
It's winter. That's exactly what it is. Winter. Newsflash. Winter will be cold. Newsflash. Summer will be hot. That's it. All right, the article goes on. In fact, an active storm track is predicted to deliver above normal precipitation to the southeast, northeast, and New England for the majority of the winter. The almanac says that February may see the most snowfall of all, and February 16th to 19th have been specifically red flagged for unusually high amounts of snowfall in the northeast. That's a gigantic, news story. Northeast getting snowstorms. As an intense storm is expected to develop near the Virginia Capes and spread particularly through the parts of the Tennessee Valley through western North Carolina, the Virginias, Maryland, Delaware, and northeast areas into southern New England. Snowfall can reach 1 to 2 feet in certain areas. How will we ever survive? Okay, and so it continues on. The Old Farmer's Almanac and its competitor, Farmer's Almanac, have become a North American staple for weather tracking since the early 1800s. Over 3 million books are printed and sold each year despite the level of accuracy, or lack thereof, the article states, featured in weather reports. This is what I found was interesting. CNN weather meteorologist and executive producer Dave Hennon warned the book's predictions shouldn't be taken in extremity, especially since both books claim to be only 80% accurate on all forecasting. I sincerely doubt that it's that high. I sincerely doubt it's that high. But that's what they say. Whatever. It's difficult enough, this is continuing on from the senior meteorologist from CNN, it's difficult enough to do a 5-day forecast, he said. We're really good at the day of and the next day, and we're better at temperatures a ways out than precipitation, but to forecast that far in advance, even the science behind our long-term forecasting is sometimes not that solid. Someone made the point, it's politicians and weather forecasters. It's a career you can have every day where you lie every single day of your career and you don't get fired for it. Right?
So Zach's a little annoyed with the weather predicting lately. Can you tell?
I mean, we have these things on our smartphones. It's the Weather Channel app for the smartphone. And it's never right. I mean, there's times where it's pouring down rain and it'll tell you 20% chance of rain today. And there's times where, it'll tell you it's 100% chance of rain and you won't get a drop. You won't even get cloud cover. It'll be the sun will be shining. You want this out of the way? Yeah. Oh, she's trying to see the chat box. Okay. So I just it blows me away, some of the stuff that they post. But, this was the article. It was on several news sources. It was all over the internet all week this week. Snowmegeddon 2017. Get ready, folks, because the end is near. I just want to let you all know, okay? But I just thought some of you guys would enjoy that. Anyway, our first winter here, I think we had, you were talking about how cold it was.
Well, we moved in the winter of 2012-13, and that was okay. It was cold, but the thing that made it horrible was that we were in the trailer. We didn't have a good source of heat. But the next winter we were in the house, and thank the Lord we were in the house, because that winter it got down into the teens and regularly during the day, all day. And that's pretty cold for Arkansas if it stays in the teens all day.
Yeah.
And then we had some negative at night. But the thing that cracked me up, and one of our neighbors is an older gentleman, and he is so sweet, so friendly. He and his wife are so friendly, and we've enjoyed the times that we've had some interaction. But he tried to get up our hill after a snowstorm.
Yeah, we had just moved here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get the houses in.
It was the first winter we were in the house. Yeah. And he tried to get up the hill and he almost ran off the hill. Our hill is pretty steep, goes around a really steep corner, and there's a drop off.
It's a hard switchback.
Yeah. And he almost got stuck, made his way up the hill. Bless his heart. He was so concerned about us. Now, poor gentleman, he was without electric at his house, and he was concerned for us, which
we didn't have electricity.
I'm really kind of still scratching my head over that one because he knew we didn't have electricity ever.
I think
here's the deal. Here's the deal. Like, I like to tell people that I feel like we are more prepared for harsh weather conditions because we have all of our food canned automatically. We don't have a freezer to go out, so we can everything. We don't rely on electricity for light and for heat and the whole gamut of things. So when there's a strong storm, we're already prepared. We always bring water into the house over the winter because if our pump freezes, that's the only way we have water. So that's a regular thing for us. Always make sure we have water inside. There's just a number of things. And this gentleman didn't realize where we were coming from.
Yeah, I think our first year here, we had -4 twice. And, the neighbors who do have electricity in the area, they lost their electricity. And I think there was time we were stuck 2 weeks up on the mountain.
No, I think it was almost 3.
All right, whatever. But it was a long time. We were stuck up here because of the snow. And that was an abnormal snowfall for this area. But every year, again, it's just Snowmegeddon. And the funny thing about this, folks, is if you go to Google and you type in Snowmegeddon, and you'll see all of the different times where this has been predicted. So when you how because Google will try to anticipate what you're looking for as you're typing it into the search engine. You'll type in Snowmegeddon and you'll see all the different years. Snowmegeddon 16, Snowmegeddon 15, Snowmegeddon 14, Snowmegeddon 13, 10, 11, 9, back in 2009. I mean, they say it every year. Snowmegeddon.
People are talking in the chat room about the persimmon seeds.
Yeah, that's something that's really big around here. Everyone looks at, they get a persimmon and then they slice it lengthwise, and then they look at it and they see what the persimmon seed looks like. And if it's a fork inside of the seed, they say, I forgot what it is. It's a bunch of superstitious nonsense anyway. But
the spoon is supposed to be mild. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Spoons, knives, and forks. So if you see a knife, it's one way. If you see a fork, it's another way. If you see a spoon, it's another way. And so far, folks, I think every year we've been here, it's been wrong.
I think I've always seen a spoon, right? Haven't we always seen a spoon?
I've seen some definite forks and some knives. I've seen spoons too.
Maybe explain to those who don't understand.
And I will. Well, it's just the thing is, it does seem that when you cut these open, the more if you cut open,
the
many of them.
The persimmon seed, you want to split the persimmon seed in half along the seam.
Right.
And inside it, you will find a whitish kind of shape.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, this one guy says spoon, need a shovel, fork. It's going to be mild.
Okay, so the spoon is,
and then knife is icy. I think maybe.
Okay.
The thing is, it's not. It really doesn't pan out, it seems like. However, what does seem to happen and is just as weird is that if you take a bunch of seeds, say you go out and you get 10 seeds and you cut them open, one year they'll all be the same. They'll all be spoons that year. And then one year they'll all be forks. And then one year they'll all be knives. I don't think I've seen forks so much. But, one year they're all knives, one year they're all spoons. And so it seems like they're consistent, but I wouldn't look to them as predicting the weather. At least that's just my experience. I don't know. Your mileage may vary.
I don't know either. All I know is that we've tried, but
to me, I just chalk it up as superstition, and people get into it, and I don't. Hey, it's winter. Winter's going to be cold. Get ready. Find your coat.
I think that it's just important to always be prepared. Always, prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
And hey, if it's not We felt gypped on this last winter.
Yeah, we told it.
It only snowed once.
I want my winter back. So anyway, going down the news stack of stuff. Also on the news this week, Obama and the internet. This has been on a lot of news places. Obama is about ready to surrender the internet from U.S. control. And titled, this is from offgridsurvival.com. I'll go ahead and read the article. This is admin. And I'll put all the links from every show we do. I put all the links in the description so you can follow along, or you can read these afterwards if you're watching this, the podcast, or listening to the podcast after the recording. It says, Obama admin to hand over control of the internet. Open internet in jeopardy of UN takeover. So it says the Department of Commerce has confirmed that the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, which is responsible for interpreting the numerical addresses on the web to a readable language, for example, the .com addresses that you see in your browser, will no longer be controlled by the United States. What were you going to say?
Nothing.
Okay. Control will be given to the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, a multinational company that includes stakeholders from countries such as China, Iran, and Russia. Since 1998, the National Telecommunications Information Administration, a body within the U.S. Commerce Department, has handled domain names through its contract with ICANN. U.S. control over domain names has helped guarantee a free and open internet and has stopped countries like China, Russia, and Iran from suppressing internet traffic and censoring content. Without U.S. control over how this process works, the freedom of the internet is at serious risk. And so basically what this means is when you, and I know a number of you guys out there, I see a lot of you guys have your own websites, you guys, you have your own content, and you're putting, stuff out there every day, your videos, and you're selling stuff. You have web stores where you sell products that you make on your website, on your homestead, and maybe you have websites for your businesses. See, every year you pay, or maybe you buy it, 4 or 5 years out in advance. You can do that as well. You pay the government a fee to register your domain name so that you can use that domain name. So ours is anamericanhomestead.com. And that's linked to an IP address so that when someone goes to anamericanhomestead.com in their browser, it goes to that IP address and they can find our content. And so that, up until now, has been under U.S. control. Okay? A bunch of bureaucrats, but still under U.S. control. Now it's going under foreign control, the United Nations, by a bunch of unelected bureaucrats. So you have, one hand, you have elected bureaucrats, and you have, on the other hand, unelected bureaucrats. So the big worry here, and some people are like, why does this concern me? I don't live in China, I don't live in Iran, I don't live in Russia, so I don't have to worry about censorship. Well, you do, because what if, you've seen the news stories out there that talk about how homesteading is going to be made illegal, or living off-grid is illegal. I did a whole couple videos on this, off-grid living being illegal. And if they deem you as doing something illegal or promoting an activity that they deem illegal, so a lot of you homesteaders out there, you guys have firearms on your homestead. Well, this is now under UN control, where the UN makes no bones about it. They do not want firearms, legal firearm ownership, to be legal, worldwide. And so your YouTube channel or your website promotes firearm ownership. They have the ability now to censor you, and that's the big concern. And so this is a big thing, and what do you do? What can you do, folks? This is all out of your control anyway. But like a big family homestead, Brad just said, hey, be prepared, get prepared. And that's the thing, this all could go away tomorrow. This all could be taken away from you tomorrow, because really this has been handled. Before, if there was a problem, it's just a matter of the American people rising up and contacting their elected representatives, congressmen, senators, whatever. Like, they actually care what you think anyway. But they can always contact them, and this internet, this part of the administration was under the U.S. Commerce Department. And so the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority is regulated by Congress. They're funded by Congress. So when Congress says, hey, they can make a change if people rise up. Well, now, it being under UN control, unelected bureaucrats control, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what your congressman says. It doesn't matter what all the Congress says. It's out of your hands. They can do what they want. And so you have a serious issue and a serious threat for people who are into seed saving. If you like saving seeds, something that is illegal in some countries. If selling seeds is illegal in some countries. If you're into firearm ownership, if you're into off-grid living, you're into making your own electricity. Some of these things that a lot of the countries of the UN are against. You're in serious. You could be censored. I mean, that's a serious concern for you guys and us. And so, what can you do about it? There's not a lot you can do about it. You're just a little peon like us living on a homestead. And
so you're saying that in the future, because someone in the chat room doesn't think that you're talking about homesteading. I don't know who it was.
Well, how do you? I mean, this is absolutely, because there are so many videos, so many news stories out there that talk about, living off grid and how they're making it harder for people. We did a whole video on people who were arrested just for owning chickens. I mean,
so what you're saying when talking about this article, you're saying that they're going to censor what we consider to be homesteading topics.
They can. Because, I mean, just for instance, we talk about hunting on here. Deep South Homestead last hour was talking about how much he likes hunting. Well, if the UN, which is absolutely against, hunting and firearm ownership, has the ability now to censor you based on your content, they can do so. I'm just saying this is a concern. This is why it's important. I mean, we're talking about this. It's a news item that came up this week. It was on off-grid survival and they carry a lot of news items that have to do with people who live off-grid, us being one of them. I mean, we are an off-grid homestead. And a lot of others are out there too, off-grid, Doug and Stacy. I mean, they're off-grid. And so, these things are a concern to us. I mean, and so that's why I'm talking about it. That's why I'm bringing it up on the show, because this did generate a lot of buzz this week because they've been talking about it for a long time. It's now happening. They're removing control, U.S. control of the internet and the name registrations, the domain name registrations, to a foreign authority that can do what they want and they're unelected for it. So I'm just saying. And I'm with you, blue helmets are proper targets. They won't ever get up our mountain. Anyway, that was a big news story this week. I thought we'd bring it up. I'll share the link below. You guys can check it out. And obviously they take comments on the offgridsurvival.com. I like reading articles from offgridsurvival.com, and they are into a lot of clickbait sometimes, but this is something that was carried by the mainstream media. Even they're talking about it. There's a lot of people talking about it, and I thought it'd be a good article to talk about here on the show. The other one I was going to talk about today too was this. Over at Responsible Technology, we talk about the genetic, we've talked about this before, I think, genetic modification, genetic engineering. It came out last week that they were going to be allowing human chimera development in the United States. They were going to allow funding for this. And I know some of you guys will be like, well, what does this have to do with homesteading? And because it goes back to seed modification. And I'll get to that in a minute. But they're allowing human chimera development where they're, merging sheep and humans and pig and humans, and they're making these chimeras in labs so that they can, cure diseases and come up with liver transplant things and all this stuff that they can use for medicine. But it goes into plants as well and the genetic modification of plants. And so I was reading this article over at responsibletechnology.org, and they're absolutely against genetic modification of plants. But the article starts off like this. It says, a GMO, genetically modified organism, is the result of a laboratory process where genes from the DNA of one species are extracted and artificially forced into the genes of an unrelated plant or animal. The foreign genes may come from bacteria, viruses, insects, animals, or even humans. Because this involves the transfer of genes, GMOs are also known as transgenic organisms. This process may be called either genetic engineering or genetic modification, GM or GE. They are one and the same. What is a gene? Every plant and animal is made of cells. each of which has a center called a nucleus, and inside every nucleus there are strings of DNA, half of which is normally inherited from the mother and half from the father. Short sequences of DNA are called genes. These genes operate in complex networks that are finely regulated to enable the processes of living organisms to happen in the right place at the right time. So how is genetic engineering done, it says? And it goes on, because living organisms have natural barriers to protect themselves against the introduction of DNA from a different species, genetic engineers must force the DNA from one organism into another. Their methods include using viruses or bacteria to infect animal or plant cells with the new DNA, or coating DNA into tiny metal pellets and firing it with a special gun into the cells. I like the idea of a gun that shoots. Okay, whatever. Injecting the new DNA into fertilized eggs with a very fine needle, or using electric shocks to create holes in the membrane of covering sperm and then forcing the new DNA into the sperm through these holes. And it goes on and on and on and on. And it talks about some of the ways this has been tried. And it gives some examples. And this is what I thought was really interesting. Spider genes were inserted into goat DNA in hopes that goat milk would contain spider web protein for use in making bulletproof vests. Cow genes turned pigskins into cow hides, meaning the pigs didn't produce pigskin anymore, they produced cow hides. Jellyfish genes were used to light up pigs' noses in the dark. I mean, these are things that they've actually done. They've tried to do. And I mean, they actually did this. They injected jellyfish genes to make pigs' noses glow in the dark. That'd be pretty cool to see. I mean,
that's nuts.
Arctic fish genes have tomatoes and strawberries become tolerant to frost. So they take Arctic fish genes from Arctic fish, and they introduce them into, and Arctic fish genes gave tomatoes and strawberries tolerance to frost. So you put these genes from a fish into tomatoes and strawberries, and now they can be tolerant to frost.
Yeah. I think this is why one of the primary reasons why my family decided to homestead, so that we could raise our own food and have it be non-GMO.
I don't have to worry about garbage in the store. I mean, that was one of the first videos we did. You know, we talked about in the season. I mean, we were like, the stuff in the stores are crazy. Now, field trials have included corn engineered with human genes, sugarcane engineered with human genes. They're actually using human genes to grow sugarcane in the Hawaii Agricultural Research Center in Hawaii. Corn engineered with jellyfish genes. Are they trying to get the corn to glow in the dark? Is that what they're doing?
You can pick it in the dark.
Stanford University has corn engineered with jellyfish genes. That's just crazy. Tobacco engineered with lettuce genes, not at the University of Hawaii. Let's see, what's the other ones? Oh, what is one of my favorite? So at one of these places, they got potatoes that glowed in the dark when they needed watering. I mean,
I assume the leaves.
Yeah. So the plants, when the plants needed water, they glowed in the dark to let you know that they needed water. Folks, we are living in a freak show. And, this is why it's important to save your seeds. But you go back to the article where Obama is handing over control of the internet to the United Nations, a place that has well been documented to be against things like seed saving and farmers' freedoms, and they can shut down a lot of these places. Because here's the deal: where are we getting our seeds today? Where have you gotten a lot of your seeds at? You got a lot of your seeds on the internet from places like Baker Creek or realseeds.com or some of these other places that specialize in natural, organic, heirloom varieties of seeds. And now if the control of those places go to the UN, they can shut those things down. They're no longer free to be able to. I mean, listen. I mean, you control the food supply. You control everything. Well, the food supply, for us, for our community as homesteaders, is online. We get our seeds from you guys. We trade seeds all the time from, Deep South. We always listen to them before our show starts. And, a couple weeks ago, they were talking about how they were sending seeds to a lot of their listeners and selling seeds and all these things. Guys, that can all go away. That can all go away, which brings in some of this nonsense that we're reading about at the responsibletechnology.org article, where they're producing these things and they're ruining the plant life and animal life here on this planet. There is a new documentary that's coming out, I believe. It may already be out. It's called The Genetic Roulette: The Gamble of Our Lives. It's a film by Jeffrey Smith, narrated by Lisa Oz. And so we talk about things like this, some things that you can do some homework on. You guys can go out and research some of this stuff yourself. And it looks like a really cool, I've seen the trailer, it looks like a really cool film. Jeffrey Smith, author of the world's best-selling book on GMOs, Seeds of Deception, is a leading consumer advocate promoting healthier non-GMO choices. Genetic Roulette: The Gamble of Our Lives has won the 2012 Movie of the Year, and some other awards, and its never-before-seen evidence points to genetically engineered foods as a major contributor to rising disease rates in U.S. population, especially among children. So what's my point in talking about this on a Homestead channel? My point is that so many of us homesteaders and farmers and people who are concerned with the food supply, we're concerned with the food that we feed to our families. We rely on internet-based trading nowadays, saving seeds, and making sure that the seeds we plant and the food that we eat is good for us. And this stuff is being destroyed. And now, the way we ensure that, the way we have been ensuring that through the internet, is being handed over to, the control is being handed over to an entity, the United Nations, that absolutely does not care about saving these things and preserving, the seeds and the heirloom and the ability to produce these things for future generations. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Now that that's over, I just thought I thought you guys would all be interested in these type of topics, and so I'm going to keep bringing these topics up on the shows and discussing them.
I think the point too is that, if I can just
go ahead,
jump in, but I think the point too is that, Zach and I have been in this for about 4 years. We're not lifetime homesteaders like some of you guys out there. We've learned a lot in the last 4 years, and Zach has done really, really well growing an awesome garden in the last years. But we've learned everything that we know online. And we've had a little bit of help with some of the locals in the area giving us tips, but we've learned everything that we know online. So when it comes back to, the censoring of that kind of stuff, the information that is out there online is helping the new generation of homesteaders get started. Because without that, the knowledge is lost. I think that we have to come to that conclusion, that there's those of us who are trying to get it back. And that's why we're living this life we're living, to teach our children. But we're fairly new in terms of homesteading. This is not how we were raised. Right. And this is not what we went to school to learn. So Zach has his web design degree, graphic arts, and I was a music major. I learned how to teach piano to kids. So I think the point is that there's a whole movement of people out there right now who are watching the disaster unfolding in the news and realizing, man, I better kick my butt in gear and get going and learn how to homestead just so I can provide for my family.
You want to talk about the people you met this weekend or this week?
So I was at the fair and I met this couple. They were remarking on Zach's pumpkin, which got some high marks.
First place ribbon.
Anyway, they thought it was really cool. They couldn't figure out squash or pumpkin. Anyway, they were oohing and ahhing over this thing, and I was standing right next to them. I said, "Oh yeah, that's our pumpkin." And I introduced myself, and this couple looked like they had just stepped out of the inner city, wouldn't you say? Covered with tattoos and piercings. Mm-hmm. And for me, that, that's kind of like oh, I don't know. I'm not used to that being here in the country. Although, she was very friendly, really loved talking with me. And I asked her a bunch of questions, and they had just moved from Indiana, big city in Indiana, I guess, and got started homesteading for all of the same reasons that Zach and I have homesteaded. I asked her if she was religious. She said, well, I'm spiritual. And I said, oh, okay, because you're just curious, because a lot of times, people who are into learning the old ways are religious. Their religion plays a very big part in what they're doing, whatever it is. So I just thought it was really cool that now there's a whole movement of people that are seeing the disaster out there, who are so concerned for the welfare of their children. She's covered with tattoos and piercings, but yet she's worrying about, she had small children, a baby and a kindergartner. She's worried about the influence that her children are getting in the city. That blew me away. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe that she wants her children to have a different life. And I thought that was awesome. I was so encouraged by that, because people are catching it and people are catching the vision, and I love it.
Yeah, it was very encouraging, and they were a great couple, and hopefully, I'm sure we'll get to talk with them again at some point soon. But yeah, so that's why I bring this thing up, and I think it's important for us to realize, just because we see something like this, it could affect us. It can affect us. Now, what can you do about it? I just don't think there's a lot you can do about it. Yeah, you can write your congressman, and it's going to get stacked in with a... Folks, I can't even answer all my emails. How is a congressman going to be able to answer his emails? You'll get some form letter back, and so that is what it is. But there is way, folks. You need to be prepared. You need to be saving your seeds. You need to be preparing your gardens for long-term, nutrients and getting those ready. I mean, what if you can't prepare your gardens anymore with some of the fertilizers that you guys use? And you got to get off those fertilizers. You got to go back to natural fertilizers and learn how to produce that compost on your own. So it's just a matter of learning. I mean, we need to kick it into high gear is where I'm going with this. Let's just open it up to the chat room. Guys, if you have a question, please put it in all caps, and then we will go ahead and look. I'll open up the chat room to make it expand a little bit here, and we'll be able to try to answer these questions as best as I can, or best as we can. I saw a lot of familiar faces in the chat room tonight, so that's really cool. And we got about 15 minutes. We'll go a little bit over time since we're the last show in the network tonight, and answer some of your questions.
Somebody early on, way back when we first started, had a question about whether to take the bands off their jars after they've canned them. And it's kind of funny because I had people telling me, yes, take them off. I even really got chastised for my videos that I had that I didn't remove the bands. Well, I didn't know. And I think that when you try something and you learn, you do better next time and you keep going. I've never been one. I've always really loved people's advice and learning from people's advice, but I have always been one that I need a strong reason to commit to it if this is what you tell me to do. Anyways, so everyone told me, take the bands off. Well, I learned the reason why is that they get stuck. Like, especially if you're canning something like fruits or tomato products will do this too, where the juices will come out just a little bit and collect around the band in the canning process. And that can be, your band can be really almost impossible to get off if that happens. It kind of glues itself onto the jar. So for that reason, I take them off.
Let's go back through some of these. Hey guys, if we don't get to your question, go ahead and repeat it in all caps. Do you have a video on saving seeds? I need to learn. We've done some videos. We just did a video in our last episode of Jamie saving some melon seeds.
I don't think that seed saving is that difficult. I think you need to be organized.
Yeah, there's different ways of doing it. Our neighbor got an instruction booklet from Baker Creek that you need to ferment your seeds before you save them or in the process of saving them. And people have asked me, have I ever done that? But I have not done that. I have never done that. And my seeds seem to do okay. So
why would you need to ferment them?
They say that it helps get better growth and helps get better germination results.
To me, that would be sprouting them. I mean, if you're...
Well, you ferment them and then you dry them. And so when you plant them next year, they have a better result. I mean, like I said, I haven't had any problem doing it the way I do it, just by drying them. So I've never tried this method. Maybe I'll do it at some point, but I'd like to maybe try it with some tomatoes. But I think I'm going to do a different variety of tomatoes next year than I've done before. So I don't know, but seed saving is easy. At the very least, you can just harvest a few of the best things that you have growing and cut it open, save the seeds, dry it on a paper towel, and you're good to go. What else?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think at least from what we've done, it's just being organized. Zach's not the most organized person, so I think that if you're going to seed save, you should do it while you're cooking. I'll cut open a pepper, I'll pull the seeds out, and so I'll remember, like, I'm not seed saving a bunch of different things at one time. Whatever I'm cooking that's when I do it. I pull out the seeds and stick it on a paper towel or napkin or something, and then dry them out and then pack them up. I always write what it is, but I'm only seed saving one thing at a time, one or two things at a time. So
John Gotti, I mean, I thought he was killed and buried in concrete somewhere, but obviously he's asking questions on our chat room. Have you heard of Fresnel lenses, free fire heat cooking? I do have a small Fresnel lens, and it works amazingly well. It's actually packed up somewhere right now. And people have asked me, hey, you should use a Fresnel lens to cook with and to heat with. My problem with that is that they're very expensive, number one, to get a good one. And if it breaks, you're out of luck. And so if you have wood, which we use to burn and cook with, that's a renewable resource that grows back, and so you can keep harvesting that and you'll never run out of it. But a Fresnel lens is very expensive. If it breaks, you're kind of out of luck. You got to buy another one. And for a long-term preparedness, survival situation, or homesteading preparedness idea, I just don't think it works that great. It's really neat to experiment, and they absolutely do work, and they work unbelievably well. But for good ones, they're expensive, and if they break, you're kind of out of luck.
But too, I think anything like that, I'm sorry, but I don't know that I would say it's a gimmick. It's not a gimmick, but is it something that you're going to run to day after day to cook with?
Yeah, there's some people who do
not
that.
Really.
Yeah, I mean they have them set up and they're framed in, and that you can move them. They're all rotating, and there's some people who really do that. But again, what if you get a hailstorm that you're not expecting in the early spring or late spring or whatever? You think the weather has kind of gone and summer's in force, but you have a hailstorm in the middle of summer or early summer, and it shatters that thing or breaks it, or a tree falls on it or something. Anything could happen. A cow gets out of the pasture and runs through it and breaks it. There's whatever. If something happens to that Fresnel lens, they're expensive to replace a good one, and they're just not.
I agree. Doug and Stacy are talking about their sun oven. I think, the sun oven is I would actually love to replace mine at some point because I think there are better ones out there. Doug and Stacy say they love the All-American sun oven. So I don't really love mine that much to recommend it.
You don't?
No, because pieces have broken on it. And I feel like it's a lot harder to set up. I feel like the reflector panels on some of the ones I've seen flip open really easily and flip down to store. And mine is a whole separate piece that you have to hook on. And it just doesn't, it's more work to set up, to use the reflector than I think it should be. I think there are some better ones out there.
We use it, though. We use it quite a bit.
No, well, what I normally use it for is heating water.
Yeah, it works great doing that. I mean, for sure. Let's see. What else? Oh, someone asked if what do I use for recording? I use the Samsung Galaxy Note 5 to record all of my videos. I use my microphone that you're listening to right now is a Blue Yeti. I have, I think it's a 910 Logitech webcam, high definition webcam that I use for when I'm recording in front of my laptop. And that's basically what I use. My software is Adobe Premiere, Adobe Photoshop, and Adobe After Effects is what I use for doing all of my software for editing. Let's see. The All-American is the Ralph Lauren of solar ovens. From Doug and Stacy. Ralph Lauren of solar ovens. I don't know what one we have.
It's the Solar Sport, I believe, is the solar oven we have. Someone says they have the same one as me. JM has the same one as me. She says it's 4 years old and a pain in the behind. That's what it is. Like, I just don't like how you have to close it up. Like, the ones I've seen, it seems to me like they have the doors that flip open and shut. Mm-hmm. Mine has these manual hooks, and some of the hooks are broken.
So is the All-American solar oven, is this like the same people who produced the canner?
I don't know. Someone maybe knows on here, but
Doug and Stacy, does the All-American solar oven, is this the same thing that produces the All-American canner? You can respond and let me know. Put it in all caps or whatever.
Someone says, why not make your own sun oven? That's a possibility, but I don't...
Yeah, if you got some 304 stainless steel, you could probably do that. Make your own sun oven. That would be the reflectors on the outside.
I feel like it needs insulation, though.
Oh, Doug says no. Or Stacy said, well, somebody says no at the off-grid with Doug and Stacy. It's not the same company. Because if it was, I bet it would probably be pretty good, because we know our American canner is top notch, and I mean it's at the top notch. Does it work well in the winter? Does what work well? The sun oven?
The sun oven, I don't really use it in the winter, to be honest,
we
because
don't need it. We got so many other heating sources in the winter.
I've got the wood stove going in the house, and I do most of as much cooking as I can with the wood stove.
Somebody wants to know any update this season on the pot still. Possibly. The biggest thing with that pot still, I mean, I really loved making it. I haven't used it yet. Number one, because, and I've got all the parts for it, I could, fire it up tomorrow. It's because the way you cool the arm is with a hose, a pressurized hose. And guys, we don't have a pressurized hose, on this homestead. We're off grid. So I need to figure out a way to build like a thump keg. So where it's completely off grid with that, and that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to get some copper wiring to build that. I do have some copper piping I can use to build that, but I think it's called a thump keg. But the way it's rigged now, I'm just not going to be able to do it that way, in that fashion. So we'll figure something out. We will be using it at some point to be doing some videos on making ethanol production on the homestead, which I have a federal license to do. I'm throwing up my hands in quotes. You can't see off camera. So just people, I'm not doing it illegally. When you process chickens, are you canning them?
Yes, we can them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always raw pack. I can bone in. Makes its own broth. So that's the easiest for me that I've found. We only will can the breast meat. We can the drumsticks and the thighs. All of the wings we save, and we'll have a bunch of wings that we cook at once for that night's dinner. So I don't can wings. Then I'll make the stock.
Canned chicken.
Zach doesn't like canned chicken.
It's okay. I like the canned stock. I think the stock is awesome. But I'm not big on canned chicken.
Here's the thing with canned meat that I found. Like, when you cook with it, it falls apart. So basically, you're into something like shredded. So, like, I'll make, I don't know, a shredded chicken tacos. Or I'll throw it in soup. But it shreds in the soup. So Zach's not a big fan of that. I always say, for someone who doesn't say he's picky, Zach can be kind of picky with his eating. I love you, honey. So I think any wife will say that her kitchen endeavors, homesteading kitchen endeavors, is basically about what your family likes.
Freaky Geek says, are there any pros and cons on canning with or without bone? I like it when she cans without the bone. Like, deer meat is the best.
Okay, but listen, I always pull the bone out. I pull the cartilage out. You're not eating that. I don't.
It's just with the chicken I don't like it because it just seems like there was so many times where I had little tiny bits of bone in the chicken.
Okay, but we've had this argument so many times. Have you eaten any bone or cartilage lately?
No.
Okay, so no.
Have I had any canned chicken lately?
Yes, you have.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, okay, so
Daniel Hill wants, Zach, have you ever had any issues with open carrying where you live? I've been trying to talk my husband to move to your area, to Homestead, but he's not happy about the gun laws. I mean, I don't know what place you could move to that has better gun laws than here. They even have a law that passed not too long ago in Arkansas, like a year ago, that allows you to not even really basically get a permit anymore because you can carry concealed or unconcealed, and not open it up. The way the law reads, you don't even need a permit. But they have permits here. You can open carry here. I open carry here. In town, when I go to town, I cover up, my pistol. So I don't open carry in town. But everywhere else, if I go to a neighbor's house and driving down the road, I can go anywhere. I'm open carrying. The only time I don't is when I go into town. That's it. Or if I go into a post office, I have to, legally unholster before I go into a post office or something like that. But everywhere else, I'm open. I carry open carry. Any thoughts on vegan homesteading?
we have lots of thoughts. I'm not sure they're really popular. I think that, I don't know. Should we go into that?
Oh, I don't know. We have friends who are vegan, and, I love the vegans. We're going to see if they can, grow all their stuff during the winter time and survive without buying food. Because, I think people ate seasonally for a reason. And you can still eat mostly vegan, I think, but there's a reason why animals were slaughtered in the winter months. Because you put that food up and it lasted all winter. If you preserved it correctly, you cured it correctly, it lasted all year. We still have meat hanging in our pantry from last year's slaughter. And you can still eat potatoes, squash, all of that stuff keeps in the wintertime very well. So you can still eat vegetarian that way or vegan that way. But I just don't,
We just don't think that it's possible to produce 100% of the food that you consume all year on your homestead. So if you're vegan homesteading, that's awesome. Like if you love to be vegan, that's great. I'm a big advocate that you know what's good for your body. And I think that we can all do better with what we eat sometimes. However, I don't think from my experience that you can grow all of the food that you consume all year if you're a vegan. You can't grow enough beans. You can't grow rice.
Yeah. In the same way, people trade for those things. A lot of times, even the pioneers, they had to go to the general store. They had to trade for those things. So you're just not going to be able to get all of that yourself grown by your own homestead.
Yeah, certainly. You can stock up on all of your dry goods.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to grow those, and it's not going to be a sustainable life if you can't buy those things.
No, Doc, you can't eat the vegans. We like our vegans. We keep them around because they have good info, good knowledge. There's a really cool channel coming out. It's called Elderberry Farms on YouTube, and they put out a few videos, and they are vegan. They are our friends. They're neighbors just down the road from us, and they are putting out excellent videos, excellent edited videos of all kinds of great things. They're very knowledgeable, and I pick her brain and his brain quite often on a number of things. In fact, we're going to change over our garden next year, I think, to the mint leader system, at least the trellis system that they have. And they are vegans, and we love them. So don't eat the vegans. We like the vegans. Let's see.
We just say each to his own.
Yeah, whatever you want to do is good. When are you going to harvest some bluegill? Hopefully soon. I don't know. We'll see. What else? Somebody else. Any new videos on fermenting this season?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm throwing around. Maybe I'll get my sourdough started again this year. I didn't do it last winter. Sourdough is just hard to do in the summer. If you don't have air conditioning, you're having to feed. Well, a lot of people put their sourdough in the fridge. Obviously, I can't do that. But if you're doing sourdough the old-fashioned way and you're keeping your starter alive through the summer, you're having to feed it 2-3 times a day. The hotter the weather is, the more you have to feed it because it eats more. There's more bacteria being made, and so if you don't feed it that much, you're going to lose it. It's going to get moldy.
She makes really good sourdough, by the way, but she hasn't made that in a while.
I think that you have to get it done. Oh, I don't know. I may start it this winter again. We'll see.
I hope she does because it's really delicious. Zach, how many deer do you harvest a winter? As many as I legally can. That's the answer. That's the right answer. I'm a vegetarian when I can't afford the meat. That's what Teresa says. How will you heat your greenhouse this year? Rocket heater still? I don't use a rocket stove. I took apart that. I did a video on why a rocket stove will not work for a greenhouse. There's Permies.com, Paul Wheaton over at Permies.com, and what's his name? MPH Gardner or MHP Gardner on YouTube got together and they determined that it does not work. And they really tried to make it work. And I am living proof. I tried to make it work. It does not work for a greenhouse. A greenhouse does not hold the heat. But what does work is putting in a barrel stove, putting in a bunch of mass, so you can get rid of the rocket mass heater, the rocket part of the mass heater, but keep the mass, and that will work for the greenhouse very well. So we have a barrel stove with a lot of mass being a bunch of rocks and a bunch of water, and it does a great job of keeping the greenhouse going during the wintertime. And so it does real good. You can find our videos on that. It's on YouTube. Let's see, what else we got here? Why not use a propane fridge? Propane fridges use a lot of propane.
They use a lot of propane.
It costs a lot of money. And we used to have a propane fridge a long time ago, and we got rid of it. Glad we did because it was basically worthless.
Well, one of those normal tanks, I forget what the tank size was that we had on that. It was a propane camp fridge, but the biggest one that we could find. And it went through one of those... just, like the portable ones that they have on a trailer, those kind of propane tanks, the small ones on a trailer. It went through one of those in about 10 days, and that was in the middle of summer. But still, it took a lot of propane, and then we realized it's not worth it. We can do better than this, and we've largely learned to live without refrigeration, which I think is a really worthwhile thing to do because we have the knowledge to do without if we would ever need to. We do get ice from town when we take trips to town, and that sees us through.
Right, we get ice in our cooler, and we use that during the summer months, but we don't really need it in the winter months, and I think refrigeration is overrated.
I will set out bottles of water and freeze those in the wintertime and then stick those in the cooler, and that really keeps the food, and then I'll set the cooler outside, and that keeps the food from actually freezing itself, but stays cold inside the cooler.
Right. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up the show. We really appreciate you guys tuning in every week and listening to us ramble on and talk about our lives and tuning into all of our videos, sharing our videos with your friends and family. Appreciate that, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please do so to our channel. And check out the Homestead Network at thehomesteadnetwork.com. The show times, you can see all of the great YouTube channels listed on there. And again, we just thank you guys for coming back each week. It's really a fun thing to do, and we'll keep doing it as long as you guys keep coming back. So, all right, guys, have a great week. We'll see you next weekend.